Mismor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar. Binote sheyarbitzeni amei menuchot yanachaleni. Nafshi yishovev. Yanacheni v'maglei tzedek lema'an shemo. Gam kirelech b'geit al mavet. Lo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha ema yanachamoni. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged tsurirai. Di shanta roshemen roshi kosiri vaya. Ach tov chesed yirdifuni koyame chayai vishaviti beveit Adonai leorech yamim. I've chanted for you the words of our 23rd Psalm. When we are feeling the need for comfort and solace, we often turn to the psalmist. And so I ask you now to recite these words with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the blueness of sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. And when we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember Malvene Peck. To her children, Denny, Lanny, Steve, and Andy, also to Rick, Todd, and Robin, to her grandchildren, Adam, Spencer, Tyler, Hannah, also to Alice and Anna, and to her great-granddaughter Izzy, and her sister-in-law Iris, and to all the members of the family and so many cherished friends. We've joined together today to remember, but also to celebrate the life of your beloved Mal. Our sages in their wisdom have taught us that birth is a beginning and death a destination and life is a journey. From childhood to maturity and youth to age. From innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing. From foolishness to discretion and then, perhaps, to wisdom. From weakness to strength, or strength to weakness and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. Mal's journey of more than 96 years began here in Cleveland. She was born in 1921 to Sarah and Hy Wolstein. Mal was the eldest of the two Wolstein children, and she, along with her brother Bart of blessed memory, were very close growing up in the Glenville neighborhood of their youth. Their parents were hard-working people, and Mal, I'm told, was known to be a bit of a rascal, a little mischievous. Lanny, you shared with me just today, you said that throughout her life she would say things like, "My name is Mal," and Mal, or Mal, in any language means bad. And she was bad, but I think she was bad in a good way. And so her mother and father sometimes needed to be extra strict with her, but her aunts and her uncles adored her, and she was the favorite among the nieces and nephews. In her senior year of high school, the family moved, and so Mal was forced to complete her high school education at the Cleveland Heights High School, and Mal always considered herself a Glenville girl. Throughout the years, it was Glenville High School reunions that she would happily and proudly attend. She was smart, an excellent student, and a very talented athlete. Mal golfed. She played tennis. She was an ice skater. She bowled on a league with her 160 average. She always kept up with her physical health, whether through sports or other activities, such as jazzercise. Following her high school graduation, Mal matriculated to The Ohio State University, where she majored in physical education. Mal's student life in Columbus shifted, though, when her uncle, Judge Dan Wasserman, got her an interview for a job with the State Highway Department, and Mal was offered the job. Now, back in the day, I'm told that Geneva-on-the-Lake was the place where many of Cleveland's Jewish 20-somethings would go for a fun weekend. One weekend, Mort Peck drove to Geneva-on-the-Lake. He walked into one of the cabins, and he saw Mal Wolstein sleeping on the cabin floor. And I think Mort leaned over to his buddy and said, "I'm going to marry that girl." Their first date, as the family folklore goes, Mort ordered a small steak, Mal ordered the large steak, and while neither of them were really drinkers, Mal managed to drink Mort under the table. He was obviously smitten, as a second date soon followed. And how could Mort not be smitten? Mal was a tall, slim, regal woman, always dressed to the nines, with her Hollywood movie star looks, always looking impeccable. Her hair and those nails, blue, purple, green nails with sparkles, always a conversation topic among friends and strangers. People loved her fashion sense, and no one could ever believe her age. Well, after a courtship, Mort and Mal married. It was April 4th, 1948, just 1 month before Israel claimed its statehood. Mort and Mal were all about family. As Denny, Lanny, Steve, and Andy entered into their lives, the Peck family portrait grew to be much more beautiful and complete. Mal stopped working for the State Highway Department once she and Mort began having children. When their youngest child, Andy, was 12, she went back to work there, and she helped to establish the Equal Opportunity Employment Regulation. She worked for the State Highway Department until her retirement at age 79. And in those retirement years, she really didn't stop working, because they continued to hire her as a consultant for the contractors who built those highways. Mal and Mort enjoyed great friends, good times. They loved to entertain in their home. They enjoyed going to movies, and they especially loved focusing their time, their energy, and all their resources on providing wonderful moments for their children. As I look at their 4 children, I know you will recall all the summers that you spent at summer camp, the tap lessons, the ballet lessons, the horseback riding lessons, the elocution and voice lessons, and all the opportunities to engage in a variety of sports activities and play on a variety of teams. And of course, let us not forget your educations, all of you achieving advanced degrees. Your parents could not do enough for you. And while your mom was the master of what I think Denny called the look, you knew the look, the one that she would give you when perhaps your behavior was in question. But even though the look was something to beware of, you always knew that you were surrounded by so much love. And as parents, they did everything they could ensure that their children lived great lives. I say to the four of you that we have this beautiful moment in the Jewish wedding ceremony, moment known as the Sheva Brachot, or the 7 wedding blessings. When we describe a couple, the bride and the groom in the Sheva Brachot, they're referred to by 2 Hebrew words, Re'im Ahuvim. Literally translated, it means loving partners. And this is what your parents were up until the time of your father's passing in 2010, after 62 years of marriage. Re'im Ahuvim, loving partners. And your mother was, in the most admirable way, a force to be reckoned with. Along with her obvious physical beauty, she was a woman who embodied strength and confidence. She was, in so many ways, cool and hip, but always smart. And she was also ahead of her time, into computers, on Facebook and LinkedIn. She was independent, assertive, and she had no problem speaking her mind. And as a grandmother, she always was encouraging and excited for her grandchildren, amazed by her accomplishments, and she would often say to her children, "I wish Dad could see how good everyone is doing." Mal was also very well traveled. Usually, traveling with her cousin Mardell, she would visit exotic places like China and Japan and Israel, parts of South America, the Baltics, the Czech Republic, cruises, all these trips, always bringing home gifts for everyone. Mal could be competitive, not only in athletics, but when it came to games. She loved playing cards, pan and gin, canasta. She played mahjong, and Mal did not like to lose. When she wasn't keeping busy with her card club 3 to 4 times a week, or her bowling league, and she bowled up until the point when she absolutely couldn't, Mal could be found sunbathing poolside at Acacia. She adored the sun. There's a beautiful Jewish expression we have called tikkun olam. Many of you are familiar with it. Literally means repairing the world. While we can't be expected to repair the entire world, we're not allowed to leave here without at least trying to fix parts of it. And she did just that. She practiced tikkun olam by her volunteer work at Wiggins for almost 10 years, until she finally moved in there just about 3 years ago. When we all grow up, we should want to be just like Mal, who, into her 90s, was driving and living independently. And for Mal, the family was the center of her world. She loved her visits to Tucson to be with children, and she loved when you would come here to visit her. Steve, when you would come to visit Cleveland, she loved not only seeing you, but that you were able to enjoy your time by enjoying the sports activities that were going on in your hometown. This made her quite happy. And she was also a very talented artist, a creator of beautiful things. Mal was quite the knitter, creating beautiful afghans and clothing, sweaters, jackets, dresses. A picture that you shared with me, Denny, I believe it was at a family wedding, that dress that she's wearing, that she made, it's absolutely stunning. She was so talented. If you knew Mal, especially if you grew up in her house, you knew that she had special sayings. We'll call them Malisms. She liked to say certain things like, "That's the way the cookie crumbles." Or if something wasn't going her way, she'd say, "It's always something." And you knew she loved you, especially if she called you darling. That was one of her favorite terms of endearment. She was a very generous woman. When she had hospital stays, the first thing she would do when she got home, She would sit down. Andy, she'd make sure you had those cards ready for her because she wanted to catch up on all the birthday cards that she needed to send out. She was generous with her time, and if you were a friend in need and wanted to get to a doctor's appointment or needed an errand run, she was the person who would pick you up. She'd go out of her way to help anyone. She cared about people and gave of herself. And as I was told, the very first thing you told me, Denny, when we spoke, you said if you knew Mal, then you weren't a stranger to her. If she met you even once, you were never a stranger. The poet Ralph Waldo Emerson, I'm fairly certain, did not know Mal. But Emerson writes these words. Emerson writes these words as if he may have known her. This is what Ralph Waldo Emerson says on what it means to be a success. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, and to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden path, or a redeemed social condition. To know that even one life has breathed easier because you lived, this is to have succeeded. Mal Peck has succeeded. And we are taught by our tradition that words which come from the heart enter right to our hearts. And so at this time, her daughter Andy has words from her heart that she wishes to share with all of us.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I wanted to share a few things about my mom, and since my siblings don't usually give me a chance to talk, and nobody was, I figured I'd take advantage of it. So, as the cantor said, anyone who knows my mom knows that she was pretty fun, she was ready for anything, she was a generous person and easygoing. There's just a couple things she was pretty tough about. Cards. They used to say, that Mal Peck is tough. So you didn't mess with her about that. And if you were one of her children, you knew that because she was this impeccably dressed person, that she was kind of tough on us, about our weight, about the clothes, that we look good, that we kept our places nice. And hair, whether you had any, whether it was curly or straight, she had something to say about it. The other thing about my mom is that she really was up for anything. She was pretty adventurous and always interested in learning. And on her 95th birthday, I flew with her to Tucson. We were celebrating it. And so I wanted to kind of keep it interesting. And anyone who knows me knows I like assessments. So I like Myers-Briggs and emotional intelligence. So I happen to have a copy of Myers-Briggs, and my mom, I gave her the assessment. She took it and she loved it and loved learning about it. And she was a she was a ESFJ, in case anyone was interested. What the cantor expresses is that my mom was really generous, and she was. It was really amazing that in between, and it really stood out for me this last time when she got home from the hospital, that immediately she had to get cards out and send money to kids and grandkids because it was really important to her that she recognized and let them know that she remembered their birthday or special occasions, and that was more important than anything. And I think the thing that stands out for me, not maybe the most, but because it was the most recent, is something that happened the most recently. And my mom was in and out of the hospital a lot over the last 15 years because of some medical issues that she had. But I would say in the last month or so, or over the summer, it was almost like every 2 weeks. So whenever I would go to see her in the emergency room or in her room, whenever, whatever the situation was, she always had a smile. She was always in a good mood. The thing that amazed me about my mom, that when she was in the hospital, she just appreciated the people that were there that helped her. And she always had such a great interaction with them. So they would love her nails, and they would talk about nails, and they would talk about makeup, and they could not believe that she was 90 whatever years old. And it was just, as much as it was a place where she was getting assistance with her medical treatment. It was also, she made it kind of a fun, healing environment and experience. So recently, the most recent experience, right before she went back to the hospital, we had this really sort of, I guess, a gift of a week in between hospital stays. And it just so happened that during that week was when my sister Denny was in town for her reunion. My brother Steve and my other sister Lanny came into town. And so we were all together. And this hadn't happened in over a year and a half, that all of us were in the same place. And the other thing that was really amazing is that it was a week filled with, we went out to dinner, my mom got her hair and her nails done, she went shopping. She hadn't done any of that stuff for such a long time, and we just all really enjoyed it. And Lanny was telling me that at the end of the week, the day before everybody was leaving to go home, and Rick and Denny were driving Lanny and my mom back to her, to Wiggins. My mom said to Lanny, I feel like $1 million. It's been so long since I felt this great. But unfortunately, that was short-lived. And that was on Sunday. And the Monday that everyone was returning back to West, to go back home out west, she wasn't feeling so well. It was hard for her to get out of bed. She was pale. She was feeling dizzy. All the old symptoms that she had experienced before, she was feeling. And so she was rushed to the hospital, and she had a transfusion. And in the process, they also discovered she had had for years and years a problem with losing blood, and they discovered the source of it. So she had a procedure where she was sedated. In the process of it, her heart stopped. And so the doctor, wisely enough, because he decided it was a result of the procedure, he decided to intubate her. And so my mom was intubated for 2 days, and that was started on Wednesday. And so I went to visit her, and her aides, Becky and Debbie, were there. We were there. I wasn't there 24/7, but they were there. And when I saw my mom lying there, and that's a hard thing to see, because people fight with that, and they tie your hands down, and their face is covered, and all kinds of things like that. And so, you don't know for sure what's going to happen. You don't know if the person's going to survive. And so you say those things to them about how much you love them, and you thank them for your life, and anything that you can think of, because you don't know whether they're going to come back. And the doctors were very positive about it, but it was still uncertain. But thankfully, my mom was removed from the ventilator after 2 days on Friday. And I had talked to the people at the hospital. And so I went in to visit her, and I was sitting by her bedside. And here's the amazing thing. The amazing thing about my mom was she always looked great, okay? Really. So I see her there, and she looked fantastic. In fact, she looked so great that I took a picture, and I text my friends and family, and they're like, wow, it was terrific. And so I said to my mom, I said, do you know what's been going on? And she kind of looked at me and said, no. And I said, well, you went to the hospital, you had a blood transfusion, they had to do a procedure because you were bleeding, and your heart stopped, and you were put on a ventilator for 2 days. And she just kind of looked at me, and she said, I don't remember anything. And she shook her head, and she said, it's always something. And I was sitting there looking at my mom. I just kind of smiled, and I thought to myself, Mom, you're right. It is always something. So thank you. That was my mom.
As you're able, I'd like to invite you to rise as we prepare for the words of El Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, shochen במרומים, עמסי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפיך השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מסעירים, את נשמת יקירנו, שהלכה לעולמה בגן עדן, תחיה מנוחתה. אנא ברחמים אסתירך, בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, v'titror bitror achayim et nishmata. Adonai hun chalata, v'tanuach b'shalom, al mishkava v'nomar Amen. O merciful God, who dwells on high, who is full of compassion, grant perfect rest beneath the shelter of your divine presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament. To our dear departed Malvene Peck, to Mal, who has gone now to her eternal home, may her soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life, and grant that her memory inspire all of us to noble and consecrated living. And to this we say, Amen. Friends, let me share with you that following the internment, which is going to be at the Bet Olam Cemetery, the family will receive visitors at Andy's home, which is at 2114 Marshfield Road in Mayfield Heights, and visitation will be today through 8 p.m. Anyone who is wishing to make a contribution in memory of Mal, the family has asked that you might consider the Wiggins Place Volunteer Fund. On behalf of the entire family, we thank you for your love and support today.